Bosh is finding his place at just the right time for the Miami Heat. We'll explain how he's done it. I'm Carissa Thompson, joined by Yahoo Sports NBA analyst Greg Anthony and Yahoo Sports NBA writer Mark Spears. You know, you guys, before he left Toronto, Bosh said that he wanted to be a number one guy. And then he goes to Miami to play beside Wade and LeBron. So, Mark, how does Chris really fit in the Big Three?
You know what? He's kind of a outsider, even though he's inside the Big Three. I know that sounds odd, but, you know, he's just so much different than those two guys. Those guys, if you go to their practice, Wade and LeBron, they're inseparable. They're always shooting after practice together. They do their media interviews together. Bosh, he's a lot of times off on his own shooting, does his own media interviews. Before games, LeBron and Wade, they might be listening to music. Bosh is reading a book. He's really, really quiet. LeBron was saying recently that, you know, you got to be worried about the quiet guys. I don't mess with Bosh too much because he's too quiet. So, you know, at times I wonder whether or not his personality really fits in with those two megastars. But you know what? The way he played in Game 3, he could be as quiet as he wants to as long as he continues to play like that.
Yeah, he's speaking volumes on the court. You know, Greg, what's been the key to Bosh's adjustments on the court? And what about his ego check, which he admitted was difficult? How tough is that for a player?
Well, I think the off-the-court stuff has been a really easy transition for him because of some of the things Mark alluded to. You know, you have to have perspective. He plays with two rock stars, in essence. When you talk about Dwayne Wade and LeBron James, those guys garner so much attention, not just because of what they do, but how they do it. They play with such flair. They really are, in a lot of ways, the face of the NBA. He's more of the quiet type in terms of how he goes about his job. You know, he's not flashy. He's not, you know, overly athletic. He doesn't make the highlight plays. He's just a highly skilled big guy. And while he had to make the transition from being that first option offensively to finding his role with this team, I think his off-the-court transition was made a lot easier because they took so much of the spotlight away from him. He can kind of just focus on his game. Those guys are more of the spokespeople for their team. They're the leaders for the team, away from the floor as well as on the court. And I think that's made it really good for him. And I think his personality is such that he's a really good complement to who they are. And then it was just a matter of them all kind of figuring it out in terms of how they play together. And now, you know, he's made the biggest adjustment of the three because LeBron and Dwayne in a lot of ways still get to play their game. And in essence, though, he's had to learn how to do some other things and emphasize other aspects of his game. And it's taken some time. But you had to expect that it would, even though they're great talents, to be able to mold them all together. That's a process. So give Chris Bosh a tremendous amount of credit and give Eric Spoelstra a lot of credit as well with the patience and understanding that this is a process. Those guys never lost faith in him, and I think now their games are really starting to prosper at just the right time.
Exactly. I mean, we all pushed the panic button early on in the season, but they obviously knew what was in store for them and having success doing so. Gentlemen, we appreciate the time, and you've been watching Yahoo Sports coverage of the NBA playoffs.